Hi everyone, just wanted to do a nice review of the Aqua Illumination Nano fixture. Everybody seemed to enjoy my Aqua Illumination Soul review, so I figured I'd review the Nano. This is my new tank. This tank is a 40 breeder, 36 inches wide, 18 inches deep, and 16 inches tall. And these two fixtures mounted a little bit higher than they normally would be. I'll explain that here in a little while. But that served kind of dual purpose, to get a little bit more spread out of them, because Aqua Illumination says that they'll get 15 inches of spread out of each module, and I'm getting probably around 18 to 20, I would say, being that they are actually mounted about 2 inches higher than what they would be in their stock form. But that really wasn't on purpose. So anyway, I'll just review some good and bad points, be relatively quick here. But first thing I want to do is talk about the mount, and I'm probably going to bash it a little too much, but I will end on a good note because these lights are awesome. I'm extremely happy with them. They're bright, they're sleek, they're small, and they're relatively inexpensive, actually, all things considered. So anyway, the mount. First things first. It doesn't work. I know that sounds, I don't know, a little overzealous, I guess, but all things considered, had I not been a little, if I wasn't savvy, I guess you could say, enough to figure out a way to get these mounted, I wouldn't have been able to mount them. Okay, if you look right here, this mount is actually not mounted to the tank. It was designed to slide over the brace of the tank, and then they have some nylon screws that screw into the back of the glass or acrylic or whatever it is to mount it. But the problem is that it does not work. So, first problem, if you have a tank with a frame around the top, i.e. any standard, all-glass aquarium, for the most part, I would say 90% of the people out there nowadays still have tanks with frame around the top of the tank. So if you have a tank like this, this mount will not work at all. So to me, that's, I don't know really what they were thinking. So in order for me to get it to work, I had to mount a piece of 3/8 acrylic to the back of the tank and then mount the light to that. And I would definitely recommend a 1/2-inch piece, because you can see I have a spacer in there because it actually wasn't deep enough. So if you can get a 1/2-inch piece of acrylic or even piece of wood back there, somehow you would be able to get to do that. Okay. And I used some nylon screws back there too. So the other thing, since I had to do it that way, as you can see up here, I had to put a spacer in the back, because otherwise the light would have been angulated a little forward and I wouldn't have gotten the right spread pattern in the tank. So I had to put a 1/4-inch spacer back there. Okay, so we'll continue working our way from the back of the mount up. So as we work our way back, you notice that my wires are kind of just, hanging out the side of the thing, and it looks a little messy. And this is not on purpose. Aqua Illumination actually designed holes in the back of the mount, as you can see here. The problem is the wires actually don't fit through them. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know if they even tested this mount, to be honest with you, but you would think that those holes would have been big enough for the wires to go through. If those holes were big enough, I probably wouldn't even really be able to see these until you got really close. So I'm very disappointed with that. I don't like having wires hanging around everywhere. I think it looks ugly, but I'm dealing with it, and to be honest with you, I was so sick and tired of trying to get this thing figured out that I didn't even bother drilling the holes bigger. So I guess I'll just live with it. It looks fine from the front. And the third on the mount is the screws that come with it. As you can see, it actually looks pretty nice. The problem is I had to buy separate screws in order to do this. The screws that come with this light and mount are about 1.5 inches long, and to be honest with you, you only need 1/2-inch screws. And the other reason I say that is because if you tighten said screws too tight, it will completely inhibit the fan from turning on. So if you, being like pretty much any safe reefer would be out there that doesn't want their $300 lights falling into their tank, you would tighten the screws pretty tight. I mean, not too tight, because you never want to go too tight, but I'm telling you, even if you get decently snug, it will inhibit the fan from turning on, and your light will overheat and turn off. This was pretty distracting for me because I honestly thought that I had defective lights. It took me about 2 hours to figure out that the fans just weren't coming on. And when I took the screws out, I was just going to take the light out, and I was actually getting ready to send it back. I still happened to have it plugged in, and as soon as I moved the screws, the fan turned on, and lo and behold, the lights turned back on. So you can't tighten the screws too tight, or the fan will not work, which is a crazy design flaw in my opinion. So that's really about all I can say on the mount. It looks nice. If it had worked properly, I think it would have been fantastic. I think it would have been worlds apart from the old mount that Aqua Illumination had on their soles, which is really terrible in my opinion. But, so it has potential. Okay. So let's get on to the good. I'm going to get really close to the fan, and I hope you can hear it, because you can hear it, but it's very quiet, and I'm going to be quiet here for a second. I don't know if you can hear it, but I can just barely hear a whistling sound, which is awesome. So the fan is extremely quiet. It keeps the lights cool. They never overheat. You know, the whole fixture is completely cool to the touch. The fan does an awesome job. It puts out some serious flow. You can actually feel it from a good foot or two apart, so you know that the light's getting good airflow and that your LEDs are not going to overheat and your investment is definitely safe and secure. Okay, the controller on the front that everybody seems to be raving about is worthless. The reason I say that is because, one, if you have more than one of the lights, the controller doesn't do you any good. You're going to have to use the Aqua Illumination controller, Profilux controller, Apex controller, or the Neptune controller in order to adjust your lights to your preference every day. Second, let's say that I wasn't using the Aqua Illumination controller like I am, and I wanted to set the intensity to about what I want every single day. Once I did that and then pulled the power, because I don't want my lights on 24 hours a day, as soon as I put the power back on the next day, the light goes to 100%. So basically you would have to be there every day that your light turns on in order to adjust it to the intensity that you want. So this is more gimmicky than anything. It's kind of cool, I guess, if you only had the one fixture to just go there and screw around and kind of show your friends, hey, look at me, I have LEDs, but whatever. Honestly, worthless, gimmicky. I honestly feel like they put it on there for, when they were showcasing it at all these, shows and stuff like that, and just kind of never took it off, which is fine. As far as lighting goes, let's get to the good. Fantastic. I absolutely love these lights. They spread out awesome. Even though I didn't want to do it, having them mounted 2 inches higher like they are makes it spread perfectly for this 36-inch wide tank. The coloration is great. It's completely on par with the Aqua Illumination Soul, in my opinion. The light is a little bit different as far as spectrum-wise because they do have different LEDs in there for the whites, but really you can't, I personally can't tell that much of a difference, and I can't be happier. So I'm not going to go through all the light intensities and colorations and all that because I did that in my Soul review, and it's definitely very, very close. That's really about all I can think for this light for the most part. I hope I didn't bash it too bad, and if Aqua Illumination is watching, maybe they'll change the mount and make it better. That's kind of what I hope for because in theory it's an awesome design. It would look very nice, but I really feel like most people that are going to try and mount more than one of these on a tank to light it like I am are just going to be completely disappointed unless they have a rimless tank. If you have a rimless tank, go for it. These are good. They're relatively inexpensive as far as LEDs go, and you get a lot of power for your money. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask them, and I'll try and answer them as fast as I can. Have a nice day, everybody.